Today, we're going to visit with a solo operator that's going from part-time to full-time, and he's completely debt-free. Stay tuned. I'm Frank, and I'm all about helping business owners and entrepreneurs start and grow their lawn care business. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell button so you're notified of my future videos. What's going on, lawn care pros? So today I have a special guest with me. His name is Devin Banwart, and he is with 417 All Out Lawns, and he's out of Battlefield, Missouri. Hey, Devin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Frank, thanks for having me.
You bet. Hey, I want to get right into it. So you're in the lawn care business, right? Obviously, because you're on a lawn care
Yes,
show. so,
absolutely.
so tell me how and when you got started.
So I've been doing it part-time for the last 3 years. I was working full-time for the city of Springfield, and just the growth of the business just kept getting bigger and bigger each year. I started my first year with just some neighborhood lawns, maybe doing five or six. And one of my neighbors, he's a board member at his church, and he turned me on to that commercial property. So that led into buying a bigger commercial mower. Um, and that, like I said, that was about 3 years ago. And then just basically just being out in the public and being seen, through a sign on my trailer, as if you will, like a business sign, with my business name. And neighbors started seeing me. People around the town started seeing me and calling me. And so I went from 5 or 6 yards my first year up to about 20 my second year, and then my third year I finished with 55. And then this year I went full time. April 8th was my last day at the city of Springfield. That's who I worked for with my full time job. So April 8th was my first last day there. First day full time in the business, and I'm at about 75 to 80 clients right now.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's some really, really good growth. I commend you for that. That's awesome. So tell me, what did you do for the city? Was it kind of related to what you're doing, lawn care, or were you more administrative? Tell me a little bit about that.
No, it was completely not related to lawn care. I worked for the public works department. So I started out doing traffic control. So I'd set up work zones and any kind of road closures due to high water or road construction or anything like that. Then I got into signs and markings. So we took care of about 43,000 street signs in the city of Springfield and multiple hundreds of miles of lanes of pavement markings. And I did that for the last 4 or 5 years at the city. I had 12 years in there completely, and the last 4 or 5 was in the signs and markings department.
So you worked for the city of Springfield, Missouri, and you worked there for, you said, 12 years, and it was totally unrelated to the lawn care business. So what made you decide, I'm going to, move into the lawn care business?
Just like when I was in high school, I grew up with my parents and my brother, and was just blessed with great parents and given a great work ethic. In high school, my mom and dad, they weren't going to let us just sit around the house, in the summers. And they told my brother and I both that we were going to have jobs. We were going to work, through high school. And my brother, he's 5 years older than I am, and he started a lawn care business in Lamar, where I grew up at, and it's a small town. I mean, he was 15. He was driving a riding lawnmower with a little yard cart behind him. Um, and that's kind of how it started. Then I kind of got big enough to help run a push mower, weed eater, and by that time he was able to drive. So we had a truck and a little trailer, and so we'd just drive around town doing some yards. We got that grown to about 20 or 30 customers. My dad still runs that today, and that was 20 years ago that we did that. And like I said, my dad still runs that today. Then whenever I moved to Springfield, I was just doing my own thing, and I'd see like everybody with a truck and a trailer, they had a mowing business, and it was just like there was so much competition. I was like, I'll never get back into that. But then I started just doing stuff around the house and around the neighborhood, and I think just doing a good job and showing people that you're willing to go forth and do the extra, just the good customer service and clean cut, and like I don't smoke, so they're not going to have cigarette butts laying around their house and stuff, and not that that's a bad thing, just not everybody wants to see that, um, and in our business, I mean, you're going to have guys like that, so but yeah, just doing a good job and good work ethic is what I was blessed with. So that's kind of how it went. Like I said, I did it in high school and just kind of always had that drive and loved doing it. Loved making the grass green and the stripes crisp. So
Yeah, so that's really cool. And you started, like you said, about 3 years ago. And going back to 3 years ago, tell me a little bit about what you were thinking. Like I need to get a bunch of equipment. I need to get a bunch of customers. What was kind of your mindset going into the business? And let's remind our uh, audience that you already had a full-time job, so you're going into it part-time. And the reason I want to remind our audience of that is because we might have some people out there that have a full-time job and they're looking to maybe get into the lawn care business, and you can kind of talk to them about your experience when you were first starting out and your mindset as far as putting your foot into the door and eventually transitioning out of your full-time job and making your business a full-time business.
yeah. So one thing that we did the Dave Ramsey plan with our personal finances, and we got completely debt free. And that was the big thing, to leaving the city, because the city is guaranteed 40 hours a week. I mean, you're gonna work, you're gonna get that same check, rain or shine. So it could rain for a whole month, and you're still gonna get that 40-hour a week check, right? Um, but so yeah, just whenever I started, I didn't have the nicest equipment. I had a newer push mower. I was doing that. Some of the yards around here are pretty hilly, so after I got 3 yards, I ended up buying a walker mower, that would climb the hills and do the hills good. But I bought that with cash. So I've grown my business completely debt free, which was huge, for our family. Just, I mean, being able to do that, and and I think that was the biggest thing, to be able to take that leap of faith and step out, into a full time lawn care, was knowing that I didn't have those bills back at home, that were going to be, you know if I didn't work a day or two, I still have enough money to survive, type thing. And when I say we're debt free, we are debt free other than the house. So we still owe on our house, but my wife works full time. She's a nurse at the hospital here in town, and like I said, just getting out of debt and just having that freedom of being able to take that leap of faith. And we're big, tithers at our church, and we believe, like the Bible says, like, if you give God the first 10%, then He'll provide you with the 90%. So that's what we've done, and we've been blessed. So
Yeah, that sounds really really good. I commend you for that. That's a great mindset to have. Making sure that you give back. So, like I said, 3 years ago you started, and one of the big things for you was being able to be debt free and not having to worry about certain things, and making sure that when you bought a piece of equipment that you could afford to buy it outright. So what were some of your other concerns going into the business? Did you wonder how am I going to get customers and how I'm going to deal with customers? Did you have some business background, or maybe your wife was helping you? Or tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, I didn't have any real business background, going into it. Like I said, whenever I started here in the neighborhood, having 4 or 5 customers, and then just the word of mouth was huge. I did some Facebook marketing, and I've done some research on that now lately. How there's other ways to go about that, to target your audience rather than just boosting a post. I didn't really get much response from boosting a post. This year I did get a website built, um, and that helped a lot. That and I don't like I really can't tell you exactly how, because like I would share my website around, on Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing, but never really just blasting it out everywhere. But I mean, how many leads I've had come in from that? It's been crazy. Um, and like it's nothing big. I mean, people can go check it out. It's 417alloutlawns.com. It's nothing crazy, but there's a little get quote button up there, and they click that, and then they fill out the form what they're looking for. If they're looking for lawn care, as far as mowing, fertilizing, what they're looking for. I don't do any of the fertilizing myself. I have a friend that's what he does, is he's in the fertilizing business, and he doesn't do any mowing, so we just kind of share customers back and forth that way. But yeah, I'd say the website was huge, and just the word of mouth, and just doing a good job, because you're gonna do, you know, Miss Sue's yard here, and she has 30 houses within, standing in her driveway, you can see 30 other houses. So people are going to drive by, they're going to see your stuff. If your stuff's clean, professional looking, they're going to stop and talk to you, and just being friendly. I've always had that drive to talk to people. I mean, I've never met a stranger, and just being nice and having competitive prices is big. I'm not the cheapest guy in town, but I'm not the most expensive guy either. So I think just doing a good job, people see that and they're willing to pay better price. Not necessarily, I mean, they're not going to pay top dollar, um, just for that. They're willing to pay more than what your $25, chucking a truck type of guy is.
Sure. Okay, great. So now, like you're 3 years into it. Let's talk about, what services are you providing right now?
So I just do the mowing, in the summer, and then I also do some Christmas lights, some professional Christmas lights in the winter. I do leaf removal, mulching, and removal in the fall. Um, but then I have a partner, I say a partner, a friend. He's in the fertilizer weed control business, and we don't really have a partnership, um, to say, but we share customers back and forth. He doesn't do any mowing, I don't do any fertilizing. So if I can sign you up as a complete package, because there is companies out there that will do, it's all on one bill, right? With your fertilizing, your mowing, and everything like that. So we try to do that. So if they want fertilizer, weed control, I know his prices, so then I can price that out. I can bill that myself, and then it's a monthly bill where all your mowing and fertilizing and everything's all right there, one bill. A lot of people like that crisp bill, and not getting overwhelmed with multiple uh, invoices each month, if you will, for different services. So, me personally, I just do the mowing, and then leaf removal in the fall, and then Christmas lights in the winter. So,
And when you were first starting out, were you kind of doing this kind of the similar type services, or have you expanded, in the last 3 years?
yeah, when I first started, I was just mowing. Um, and about 2 years ago, I met Carrie, my fertilizer guy. Um, and then we just kind of built that friendship that year. And then this year we kind of partnered up together. Like I said, it's not really a partnership in the business. He owns his business, I own my business. Um, but then we just share customers back and forth. And if they want mowing, but he signed them up, then he'll do all the billing, and then I'll bill him. He pays me, type thing. Or if I'm mowing and I can sign you up as a fertilizer customer, then same thing. I just bill you, and then he bills me, and I pay him for the fertilizer. So.
Okay. So if somebody was just getting started, into the business, and just like you did 3 years ago, what would you tell them as far as, how to price your lawn and some other tips that you can give them whenever they're first starting out?
I would tell him to, and I have a friend that he's a school teacher here, and he wants to get into the mowing this year. And like I told him, just figure out your rates, like really knowing your numbers, how much that mower's costing you. And just because you pay off the mower, or you own the mower, your dad gave you the mower, still you still got to figure in that cost because you're going to have to replace that mower at some point. So really knowing your numbers and breaking that down. The gas, I mean, everybody's dealing with gas um, prices this year, so that's really tough to nail that down. But get your numbers um, nailed down the most you can, and then figure out what you want to make per hour. And then if that yard's going to take you 30 minutes, then you want to make half of your hourly rate ideally. If you can get a bunch of them together, that's great. I mean, like I do a lot of little cookie cutter houses, if you will. I've got a few commercial and then a few bigger houses. But that's kind of how I look at it. If I think it's going to take me an hour and I want to make $100 an hour, then that's $100 cut. And then the fertilizer we just base on the square footage. So
Okay. And so, you're into it 3 years now and, you're moving along. Have you started looking for employees or did you add employees like in the previous years?
I've never had employees. This year, I think I'm going to hire a kid or two in the summer, just when they're out of school. I've got a neighbor kid. He's a freshman here at the local high school. I'd really like to get him because he's going to be around for the next 4 years, providing his family doesn't move or something. But he would be a really good employee, I think. And then I've got a nephew. He's a school teacher and he's first year teaching school just out of college. He's 24, 25 years old. I think he's kind of willing to work and has kind of mentioned a little bit about helping me this summer. So the only drawback to those guys are they're going to be free in June, July, August, which here in Missouri, there's a good chance that it's going to be hot and dry in June, July, and August. A lot of our yards are irrigated and most of them are fertilized, so they should still grow. Just might be a little bit slower than it is right now. Here, when this podcast is being recorded, in 1st of May, because it is raining every other day. It seems like, and looks like
Yeah.
this week we're gonna have a full week of rain this week. So they're really gonna be growing now. But I mean, yeah, like back to the employees. I've never had employees. Like I said, this is my first year full time. So just kind of build it up from here and see where we can go. If it gets to be where I can get an employee, I'd like to. If I do get employees, I'd like to be able to justify keeping them on year round, because I just feel like that I don't want to let them go around November, December, right before the holidays and the New Year and stuff. I think that would I'd feel bad about that. Even going into it, if I told them straight up, "Hey, in December you're going to be, let go," but if I could keep them around, that would be ideal because then they're going to stay around with you through the following years. So, like I said, I do some professional Christmas lights, so that's not for everybody because some of the roofs, get a little steeper than others. So if I did get somebody, that'd probably be somebody I'd be looking at if I was going to do a full time employee. Was somebody that would be willing to do the Christmas light stuff too. Um, but yeah, so
Okay.
that's where I'm at right now. So
Very cool. So, as a solo operator, remind us again how many lawns you're doing right now?
about 80.
80. Wow, that's incredible. That's a lot of lawns. So, in Battlefield, Missouri, where you're located, is that do you guys primarily do like weekly cuts, biweekly cuts, or what's the mixture?
Yeah, I do strictly weekly. I do have a few people. Whenever I went full time this year, I got when I quit or when the season ended last year, I was at 50 some customers, and going into it, I knew that I needed to get up to that 70, 80 mark to have a comfortable season to be able to save to go into the winter when the income goes down a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I I did take a few biweekly customers right there at the first of the year this year. But now, if anybody wants to sign up now, they're strictly weekly. So
That's really good.
when I say weekly, I mean if it's a yard that's not irrigated, not fertilized, in August when it dries up, I'm not going to go just drive around and make tracks. I mean, if it doesn't need mowed, I'm not going to mow it. But for the most part, it's going to be a weekly cut.
Sure, sure. That makes perfect sense. And your area where you're located, what's the typical mowing season? When does it start and when does it kind of taper off?
That's a funny question. This year, we started about 3 weeks later than we did last year. We didn't start till end of March, first of April, and and last year we started probably middle of March. Um, but it usually runs. Grass will still be growing um, into September, or yeah, into September, first of October, and then it'll slow down, and then the leaves will start falling around October, and we'll still be doing leaf cleanups first of December, but not everybody wants a leaf cleanup. Some people they're just like let them fall and let them blow around. But most of the people want them at least mulched up or bagged and hauled off.
Okay, so during the when the mowing season's kind of done, that's when you get into the the picking up the leaves. And would you say that's a
Yep.
pretty good income source during that time, or how does that compare to your mowing?
It's a decent income. I need to work on my pricing on that, to be honest with you, because there is a lot more work in the leaves, and a lot of guys will double their price of a mowing, but I almost think it needs to go up even more than that because I mean you're even if you're mulching them, I mean you're mowing that yard 3 times to get all the leaves, and then if we bag them and haul them off, then we're there even longer. So I mean we really got to work on our prices this year, or I do, um, as far as going into the season, just being straight up with the customer, like, hey, we're still here to do your leaves, but it's going to cost this. And that took a little bit of learning, just over the years, just realizing how long it takes to do a leaf cleanup, and to do it properly. I mean, it's one thing just to blow them out of the corners and run over them with a mower. But to really grind them up, and if you're going to mulch them, I mean that's what I do with most of the customers. I do have some that want them bagged and hauled off, and that's not a problem. We can do that. But if we're going to mulch them, I mean it's going to take. We're going to mow that yard 3 or 4 times just to get them completely ground up and to where you won't see them. I really like to do that, um, still do that weekly. People will think, well, let's just wait till all the leaves fall, and the mowers they just don't like that. I mean, it just starts building up in front of them, and then you're having to blow them out, into the yard just to scatter them out to get them to where they'll go under the mower. So I tell people, like, if you want leaf cleanups, we'll still do leaf cleanups, but we're going to do it weekly, just like we've been doing your yard all summer, just to stay on top of those leaves because we get a lot of oaks and sycamores with those big leaves and lots of leaves, and they build up pretty fast. So
Yeah, it sounds like you know your numbers pretty well. So just out of curiosity, how do your numbers, like on a per man hour base, compare from leaf cleanup to mowing? And I know you said the leaf cleanup, that's something you need to adjust. But right now, where would you say you're at when it comes to mowing? Like, what do you expect to make per man hour? And then let's compare that to the leaf cleanup.
I shoot for 85 to 90 a man hour in mowing, um, and then in leaf cleanup, because we're just gonna have more equipment out there. So I'm shooting for that 125 to $150 a man hour in leaf cleanup.
Oh wow, that's really good. That's really good. So now you also mentioned that you do like the Christmas lights, right? So how did you get into that? Like, was there some learning curve? How did you learn how to do all that?
Yeah, there was a big learning curve on that. I did my own just with some box store lights from the local hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, any of that. But those Christmas lights, they're you buy 100 feet of them, 200 feet, whatever, and you can hook 10 strings together, no problem. But when you're outlining a house, then if you want to come down and do a garage door, you've got random lights just running from your roof edge down to your garage door, or vice versa if you start at the garage and go up. Um, and I saw all these people like where they would just do the garage door, and then there would be lights on the roof, and there's no lights going from the door to the roof, and I'm like, I just it was uh, my curiosity got the best of me, I guess, on that. So I just kind of looked around, and went on YouTube and Google and stuff, and figured out that those Christmas lights, like you can cut them, but you can't cut a box store lights because they have a continuous power that runs from one end of the string to the other end. And so you can't cut that because then you lose your power throughout the rest of the string. But the commercial grade lights, you can actually cut those and put a male and female end wherever you want them. And there's a local Ewing irrigation place here in town, or local Site One. They sell Christmas lights, and there's places online you can buy them. I've talked to a lot of the online people, and they're great people. But I like to stay local because then if I need a light bulb, then I just go to the local Ewing or Site One and wherever, so they all match that way. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into that. And and once again, just knowing your numbers, I broke it down to how much, because the wire you buy it with just the sockets on it, and then you put your own bulbs in it. So then you can do kind of any combination. Like this year, we've got 3 customers already signed up, and they want to do Halloween lights. So we're going to do purple and orange for Halloween, and then right after Halloween, 1st of November, we'll go over and we'll swap out their bulbs basically. Just unscrew the bulbs, screw in some red and green or whatever color they want for Christmas. And I can really see that business just blowing up. I mean, I saw one house, we didn't do it. I said, but they put up Mardi Gras lights this year.
Hmm.
And it, I mean, and you could the possibilities are endless with the colors. I mean, I could see. I've got a neighbor. He's a big, not politician, but he's into the politic side of it, and I could see him in the next big presidential election, maybe doing some, you know, patriotic lighting, or 4th of July we could do red, white, and blue or something. And once the lights are cut, the cutting's the big part. But then yeah, it's just changing out the bulbs. Like I'm a big Chiefs fan,
Hmm.
and
Oh, good.
this year, this year I probably jinxed them, but I did some red and yellow lights during the playoffs. And then we lost, but it was fun. It was fun putting them up. I did a little marketing video on that, just playing around with it, so but yeah, I so like I was saying, I really broke down my numbers on how much everything cost, and then got it down to how much it costs per foot. And then that's kind of how I do my pricing on that is, you know I know how much my lights are going to cost per foot, and then there's a lot of variables as far as your labor, how hard a house it is. If it's a simple, just gutter all the way around, it's no big deal. If they want to go up some crazy peaks and, you're 50, 60 feet off the ground and at a 12-12 pitch, then the price is going up a little bit just because of the difficulty to get up there.
Yeah, and so on the Christmas lights that you do you advertise that separate from your lawn mowing business, or are you just specifically tailoring that to your existing customers?
I run it through the 417 All Out Lawns. Kind of our little quote, if you will, is where service is always in season. So that way it kind of umbrellas everything together, and it makes it a lot easier for my tax guy, just to have everything under one umbrella. But yeah, so we'll offer it to all of our lawn customers. We'll send out just an email, at the end of the season, thanking them for their business, or maybe throughout the season, thanking them for their business, and letting them know, like, hey, leaf season's coming up. We take care of your leaves, and then maybe a week or two into leaf season, hey, Christmas lights or Christmas season's coming up. Let us decorate your house. Maybe send them out some pictures of houses we've done, and a lot of people will see me putting up lights on their neighbor's house, and it's funny, Frank, is everybody seems like they have to be keeping up with the Joneses, and like I put up lights on this one house this year, and the guy came out and he goes, hey, can you come give me a price on my house? And I was like, sure. So I go over there and I was like, so what do you want to light up? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, what do you think? And I was like, well, most people do this, this, and this. And he's like, well, I saw you just did the roof over there. He's like, how about we do the roof and my garage doors? That way I do a little bit more than they did. And I'm like, okay. So who knows what next year's going to be, if the other people are going to want their garage doors done. So, and it's that part of the business is all super customizable. Um, if you want to add a garage door or a window or something, I mean, we can always do that, because the initial cost is up front, buying the lights. So if you want to add, pieces throughout the years, you can always do that. So it makes it nice, that way we can do the big, roof line or whatever the first year, and then the next year we give them a discount for because we buy the lights and we store them all, and then basically it's a rental program after that.
Hmm.
So then they lease their lights from us, and they're all cut with their name on them. And if they don't sign up that next year, then we can use those lights and we can cut them up and put them on something else to make it fit on another house. So
So you guys box it up for Mrs. Jones or Mrs. Smith or whoever your customer is, and you set that aside for next year. Is that right?
yep, we put it in a big Rubbermaid tub with a picture of their house, and and I mean, there's no secret. I mean, it's everybody can YouTube it or whatever. Just do your research on how to do the reinstalls. One thing I've done that I'll let the listeners in on is I color code with like different color zip ties at each male and female plug. And so, like, if we're doing a roof line, but then it breaks off to go to a second story roof line, then we'll do like a red zip tie at the beginning, and then when it goes up, we'll do a yellow zip tie. If it comes back down, we might do a blue one, a green one. If it goes down to a garage door,
Hmm.
and then I take a picture of that house, and then I on my iPhone or my iPad, I can edit that photo with uh, the colored lines on there, and then I just print it off and throw that picture in the box. And then if I ever, had employees that, to do it, then I could just say, hey, here's the box, here's the address, and there's a picture of the house, and they can look at the zip ties and be like, okay, the red zip tie goes here, the blue one goes here, and it's almost where a trained monkey could do it at that point.
Man, that's really, really good advice. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So you're doing mowing, you're doing the leaf cleanup, the Christmas lights. Is there anything else that you were doing again?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. And is that something that, you're planning on next year? Like this year, you're going into the season and that's what you're doing. Are you looking at anything specific that you want to add for future years?
I might get into aerations and overseedings eventually. Right now, I'm giving all that to my fertilizer guy. But I mean, I went to the GIE last year, and I guess this year it's called the Equip Expo in
Mm-hmm.
Louisville. Um, and that's a really good place. Like, even if you're not in the mowing business full time, or if you're just thinking about getting into the business, that's a great place to go. There's so many people there with so much knowledge, just from the dealers to the podcasters to, I mean, everybody's there, and like you just sit down at a table, at lunchtime, before the show opens at breakfast or whatever, and just start talking to guys. I met so many guys from Missouri there last year, and it was in Louisville, Kentucky. And like I went by myself, didn't but like I said earlier in the podcast, was I've never met a stranger, so I just sit down and start talking to guys, and I mean everybody from Corey Ballard to all the local dealers, the CEOs of those companies, and you can go out on the outside area and drive those mowers and stuff. I didn't do any of that because like I've driven mowers, so I knew how they were going to do. And out there's really not any grass to cut where they have all that. So I mean, you can't see how the mowers are going to cut. You can just kind of drive them around. But it's still cool, and getting to talk to the dealers and let them tell you what their machine can do and what it can't do. But I talked to a couple dealers that were in the like the aerators and seeder overseeders and stuff like that, and saw a couple different ones that I liked, that seemed pretty straightforward. That you could just kind of do an all-in-one machine type of thing. So if I got into it, that'd probably be my next adventure to get into, would be the aerations and overseedings. So
That sounds really good. So tell me, is there a reason like you're not getting into like landscaping or like planting flowers, those kind of things? Is that something that you're just not comfortable doing, or you're more comfortable doing what you're doing right now?
I mean, I've had some people ask me to do some landscaping, and I might get into that like in the fall. I just don't have any time in the summer, to be honest with you. Um, I did do a couple mulch jobs just for customers that just wanted their mulch freshened up. I've done a little bit of that, but I mean, as far as hardscaping or paver patios or anything like that, like I just don't have the time for it, to be honest with you. Not saying that if I didn't get some employees and built the business up, that it's not something I would be against getting into, if you will. Just right now, just the time factor.
No, I think that's actually really smart that you've identified what you want to do right now, and you're sticking with it. You're not chasing squirrels, as I would say.
Yeah,
Jumping from one branch to another. You're really focused in on what's working for you, and I think that's a really, really good way to run your business. So,
yeah, and that's I heard that from some other guys as far as like they quoted like staying in your lane. I mean, and I saw a guy just today here in our area. Saw his ad on Facebook for mowing lawns, but I mean, he had a whole list of stuff that he's offering. I mean, he was mowing lawns, he was washing houses, washing decks, washing driveways, and starting out. Like, I'm not saying that's not a bad idea, but eventually you got to find out what you're good at and just nail that down, and just stay there. If you're a tree guy, you're a tree guy, and really get out and market that tree service, and get to guys like myself, and just market with us, lawn guys, because or network with us, because I always have people asking me, hey, can you trim this tree, or hey, this over here, is this limb broke out of the middle of the tree, like, and they always ask for recommendations. So I mean, if you're a tree guy, find that lawnmower guy, and be like, hey, if I have any lawns that need cut, I'm going to call you. If you have any trees that need cut, please give me a call. And I forward a lot of business, a lot of tree business over to some other guys, as far as Mrs. Smith has a. It happened last year. We had a little storm blow through, and she had one limb, laying in the middle of her tree, and I could have probably climbed up there and got it, but it's just not something that I was comfortable with, and that's really not the lane that I was in. So I just called my tree guy, and I'm like, hey, you know, give this lady a call. Here's her name and number. Here's what's going on. And he went over there, or he sent his guys over there. They got the limb out, and they did a great job. They cleaned it up, trimmed up a few other branches up in that tree, and made her super happy. And could I have done the same thing? Sure. But it would have taken me a lot longer, and I wouldn't have been as proficient with it. And seeing those other limbs up there, I might not have seen them because I didn't know what I was looking for. Um, but yeah, just find out what you're good at and just nail that down is what I would suggest.
Absolutely. Stay in your lane. And we'll continue our conversation with Devin next time. I hope this information was helpful to you. Make sure to subscribe, like, and hit the bell button so you're notified of my future videos. See you next time, Lawn Care Pros.